Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline, live from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And joining us this morning on our set is the Chairperson of the National Child Protection Authority, Natasha Balendran. Very good morning to you,
Good
Natasha.
morning, Faraz.
And thank you very much, Ms. Balendran, for coming on the program. We appreciate you coming here this early. How are our children being looked after in this country?
Well, our children are being looked after in many ways.
Yeah.
The National Child Protection Authority in particular, we look at laws and policies about protecting victims of child abuse and how to prevent child abuse, and we advise the government on that. And then we make sure that these laws and policies are being effectively and correctly implemented.
Right.
At the same time, we create awareness in the country about the rights of children, about what we need to do to protect them. In addition, we have a toll-free number which any citizen can call, or anyone in the country can call, and make a complaint that their child is either their child or a child that they know is facing
some
threats,
danger.
some threats. Yes.
And that number is 1929.
That's right.
1929. I think our team will put it up on the screen at some point. So anyone can just call that number.
Anyone can call. It's 24 hours, toll free. So anyone can call it. We receive about 100,000 calls a year.
Right.
About 10,000 of those are actually child abuse complaints.
Right.
And those complaints we then forward to the correct agency.
Right.
Usually, in a majority of cases, it goes to the police.
Right.
The National Child Protection Authority has a special police unit.
Right.
So those complaints go through our police unit to the various police stations,
right.
And then we monitor the progress of the investigation. If it is a special case, if it is something that has already gone to the police and has not been properly handled, or we think there could be political or other influence, then our police conducts the investigation themselves. Other complaints which are not strictly of a criminal nature go to the Education Ministry, go to Health Ministry, Labour Department, or to our field officers in the various in the various districts,
right.
And they follow up and
right.
make sure that we follow up till we are sure that the child has been reintegrated into either their family or community and into school.
And Natasha, when you analyze you say about 100,000 calls and 10,000 are to do with child abuse as such. What about the other 90,000? What are they?
This can be a variety of calls. Some of them can be really not within our, all of those are not within our purview, but we tend to give advice, we counsel, so we can put them through to our legal department if it is legal advice that they're seeking,
right.
Or we also have a psychosocial unit,
right.
where they can be counseled, or sometimes people just need to talk, and some of them are things we really cannot help with, like the roof is broken and the child's room is getting wet,
right.
Or things like that, but we try to direct them to the right place.
And Natasha, who mans these phones? Who's at the end of the phone line?
Our 1929 staff, who we train on the legal system as well as what child protection is, what needs to be done, and then and they also have some training in counseling, which we are trying to strengthen at the moment and make sure that all of our call center operators have some knowledge and training on counseling. And then it goes to a centralized unit which decides where exactly to direct the complaint.
And the sort of trilingual.
They are trilingual, so it's Sinhala, Tamil and English.
Right.
Not that the operators are not trilingual, but we have operators who can speak all of those languages.
And is it 24 hours?
It is 24 hours,
Right,
yes.
24. And what's the majority of the complaints?
Well, the complaints, if you look at our 2016 complaints, the majority would be cruelty to children.
Right.
So children being mishandled, physically abused, emotionally abused, and this usually happens either in the home or in the school. So the majority of them are that. There is also complaints of sexual abuse.
And obviously, needless to say, these calls are very confidential.
Yes, we guarantee confidentiality. People don't even have to give their names when they call.
Right.
You can make anonymous complaints. Confidentiality is guaranteed, and we never actually let out the name of the complainant,
Right.
Unless there's a court order or something like that.
And how, let's say, how many of these calls are sort of vexatious in nature?
Some of them are. A minority of them are.
Right.
That will be just people calling to say hello.
Right.
Does this number really work?
Oh,
and
okay.
but in the holidays, there are children who will call. Again, not to make a complaint,
Yeah.
but just to talk. So that also tells us something about what needs to be done in this country
Yeah.
if we are going to create the kind of environment for children, a child-friendly environment.
Yeah.
It tells us that there are lonely children, bored children who have nothing to do except, call this toll-free number.
But at least they know the number.
They do know the number. The number has been publicized pretty well.
How have you managed
It's on
to do
various posters, billboards, our television advertisements, radio advertisements. Facebook, yes.
Right.
Social media too. So it's pretty well known.
that? And do you all carry sort of, talking about social media, do you all carry sort of warnings on social media for children to be aware?
Yes. Actually, online safety is something that we have been focusing on a lot recently. 2 years ago actually, we formed a task force on online safety
Right.
with the Attorney General, Police Department, Education and various NGOs
Right.
to make sure that any online complaints that come to us, and quite a few do come to us now, are handled with expeditiously and that the full force of the criminal law is enforced there. In addition, we have various awareness programs for children, parents and teachers. We had a poster campaign last year where every secondary school in the country we distributed posters on the steps that you need to take in order to be safe online. So our position is that the internet is on the whole a good thing, provides a lot of opportunities for children, but children need to know how to be safe, how to be respectful, how to behave as they would offline
Right.
when they're online.
And is there any particular area of the country where you get more calls from?
Well, yes, the urban areas is where we get more calls from.
Right.
We are not sure whether this is a reflection of the fact that 1929 is better known in those areas. So
Right.
the highest number of calls is Colombo, Gampaha, Kurunegala. So
Look, I think my real question is this. How many kids out there in the former conflict areas know about this number?
they do. In the north and east, 1929 is well known.
Right.
But I think we have to go further to win the confidence of the people there, to ensure that that they feel that that effective remedies will be given when they call 1929. And we do get calls, but I think proportionately not enough.
Right.
Which actually shows us that we need to build up the system there, not just the National Child Protection
Are you
Authority.
withheld by lack of funds?
No, it's not just the national. See, 1929 is a system where we receive complaints, but those complaints have to actually be sorted out by the agencies, police, probation, education. And in the north and east, I think there is a lack of trust that the police will respond adequately, that the probation will respond adequately. And in fact, we have written to the IGP many times about this, and he has been receptive, that we need to have more Tamil-speaking police officers in the north and east. We need to make sure that they are sensitized about the community issues, that they are able not only to investigate a case and find the culprit, but that they deal in a sensitive manner with the victim, the family, and the community.
I think somebody somewhere must be listening to your organization.
Okay.
Quite by chance, on coming back to Colombo, I was seated next to a young man who works in the Middle East, and I presumed he was coming back in time for the holidays or so on. And he said, actually, I'm going back because I have an interview to join the police.
Okay.
And he's coming to do some tests or something.
Right.
But he was a Tamil-speaking young man.
Okay.
And I said, but really, are they, taking you? He said, yeah, it's and I'm very excited about it. And I thought to myself, how wonderful.
Yes. We do need people like that, other Tamil-speaking people in that community to also join the police, and the police to actually make a true commitment to ensure that there are properly trained Tamil-speaking officers in those areas to deal with these child abuse cases, because these cases can be very sensitive and can inflame the community.
And Sri Lanka had many reports of this sort of child abuse over the past, and we're continuing to suffer. What sort of difference has the current administration brought into play to address the situation?
Well, I think progressively we are moving. We are hoping that we are convincing politicians and others of the importance of focusing on children as the future of our country, and also that the economic cost which comes when a child is unprotected and abused. And as a result, I think we are seeing more focus on this, which allows agencies like us to work more effectively. Also, when I was appointed, there was a real pledge that independence of the authority will be ensured, that there will be no political interference, and for now that has pretty much been true.
And sorry, who's the minister in charge of your...
Well, I was appointed by Rosie Senanayake. The minister now is Chandrani Bandara.
Right, okay. I see. And what about this domestic labour? Is that a big problem still?
Well, it is a problem.
Yeah.
It used to be a bigger problem many years ago, but actually 1929 played a big role in reducing that, because lots of people used to call with domestic child labor complaints, and due to the follow-up of that, I think now people are more careful now about employing young children.
Right.
We have also made suggestions that the law be changed, that any child under 18, the employment of any child under 18 for domestic labor is made illegal. It's put on a hazardous labor list, hazardous work list, a list of, we have 50 odd occupations in that list where a child cannot be employed.
I see. And what about, Natasha, when we travel about, we stopped at a place not far from Ratnapura, and it was clear that this tea shop was being run by a mum, dad, and a young fellow who must have been, I don't know, about 10 or 12 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, how does that work out? I'm not employing them, but he's just helping us.
Yeah,
We're keeping him out of trouble.
Right. I mean, if that employment within the family, if it doesn't interfere, if the child is going to school, if the child does have enough time for their schoolwork and other extracurricular activities and is helping out for a few hours a day, then that's okay.
Right.
But if it goes beyond that, then it breaks the law.
Right.
And what we say is, anyone seeing that, call 1929, let us know, and together with the Labour Department and the police, we can take action.
How many staff do you have to take these calls and to investigate and other complaints?
At the moment, we have about 11 or 12 staff to take the complaints, just the operators.
Yeah.
And then we have a police unit of 30 people, 30 odd people, and then in the field we have about another 400 people who can follow up on the complaints.
And what would you say? Bullying, cyberbullying?
Yeah, it happens. It's happening increasingly. We are getting lots of calls about that, where either a child, something they've posted online is being used against them,
right,
or their profile picture is used to create false accounts, or pictures that they have sent to, say, an ex-boyfriend are then used to blackmail them into continuing the relationship or sending more pictures. And so this is what, when I said we focus on this a lot now, this is the reason. And we are also looking at how the law should be changed in order to deal with cyberbullying. We are planning to make a recommendation that cyberbullying be made a specific offence under the Penal Code or under the Computer Crimes Act,
right,
and that the evidence, the law of evidence also be amended so that that it is easier to prosecute online-based offences.
Right. And do you have offices around the country?
We do, in every division.
In every division?
We do.
So how many would that make? Is that
There's 300 odd.
All right, so you do, it's a big, robust
It is. And of course, the National Child Protection Authority's role is more on the policy, legal reform side, making sure that other organizations which deal directly with the public are given the kind of technical knowledge and training that they require.
Right.
So our officers, in order to focus on that mandate, as of recent, are doing more trainings of other officers, trainings of school teachers, principals, parents, rather than going directly into schools or the community.
Right. The viewers have got questions. That was one. And here's another. Can the lady define the maximum age of the child?
Anyone under the age of 18 is a child,
right,
internationally and nationally.
Okay. And so in our traditional sort of industries that are sort of that had a reputation of being sort of sweatshops and so on, like the garment trade, are we quite satisfied that there is no child labour being used there?
Well, while everyone under 18 is a child, under our labour laws, it is anyone under 14 cannot be employed full-time,
right,
and that is considered a breach of labour law. Between 14 and 18, unless it is a hazardous occupation,
right,
which I don't think the garment trade is categorized in that at the moment, then employment is legal. We are advocating that that age be taken up to 16. Now that the compulsory age of education is being taken up to 16, we feel that the minimum age for entering the workforce should also be taken up to 16.
I need to ask this question because it's a wonderful opportunity now. In the past, we've had wonderful, shall we call them, moments in Parliament. And I think the last speaker, we had an incident in where the former speaker, Chamarajapaksa, had to remind members of the House that there were school children in the gallery and that they ought to behave. Now, incidents such as these, does the Child Protection Authority put pen to paper and write to them and say, hello, what are you doing?
Yes,
do you take a stance like that?
Yeah, on certain occasions we certainly do, and our position has always been that yes, adults are modeling behavior for children, and when we have violence, disregard for social empathy and social norms, then that is going to directly translate into children doing the same. So that is something we actually focus on a lot. We keep reiterating that if adults want a protective environment for their children, they have to create, they have to create it themselves. There are government agencies like ours which will support and help, but ultimately it is the parents, it is the community which really protects a child. And our role is to support them to make sure they have the necessary knowledge, skills, etc.
And some time back, if you remember, there was this child from Kuliapitiya who had AIDS, who didn't have AIDS,
Right,
was supposed to have AIDS, and it was
supposed to have.
Yeah, and it was a complete traumatic experience for that child. What's happened now? How have you all resolved that?
Well, I think the child got a different placement in another school, in another town, and is doing okay. We are following up to make sure that the mother and child are doing okay. Our officer in that district is following up. Also, at the same time, lawyers, a group of lawyers went to courts, to the Supreme Court, and about this case.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court actually did make a decision. It isn't, by then the child had been placed, so it's not a binding decision, but it had very good language there, which says that a child cannot be excluded for reasons like this. And we are actually following up. It's in our action plan for this year to follow up, and together with the Education Ministry develop guidelines for inclusive education. Because one of the problems we see even with any kind of abused child is that the school excludes them. The school, once they are abused, that is made a reason for the school kind of cornering them, making sure that they leave the school. Say a pregnant teenager, but any kind of abuse where it's known. So we need to first educate schools, educate communities that a child deserves and has the right to enjoy a child's life, and education is part of that, and that a school cannot re-victimize a child just because they've been a victim of sexual or other abuse.
When I was in Africa once, I was having this conversation with a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
And I just asked about the children and so on. And we were talking about the parents, actually. And she said, the culture here is that they only may be in the kindergarten, but the parents have already decided that one will be a doctor and that one will be an engineer. And so the pressures, this teacher was feeling sorry that these kids were put under such intensity of purpose, and that she was bemoaning this fact that these children were not enjoying a childhood, and her attempts to bring hand painting, face painting, and all that was met with great derision by the directors of that school. Well, how does Sri Lanka compare in that?
I think we are also moving to a place where children are being put under intense pressure with the various exams, the pressure to perform at these exams, and even in extracurricular activities. And we have to take a step back and think, what do we really want for our children? Do we want well-adjusted, functional adults? Or do we, want some child who's so stressed and have been put under so much pressure that they're not really able to function socially when they're adults? So that is actually something we have been talking to both the Ministry of Education and the National Institute of Education about how to introduce life skills, more life skills, especially into early education, and we've been able to introduce them progressively now. Last year they were redoing the grade 2 syllabus, so we were able to introduce some topics into that, about empathy, about social, about socializing, also about your body. So one of the problems in our country is that we don't have comprehensive sexuality education in our schools. So we have
culture coming there.
Well, culture, I think, is used as an excuse to say, no, we can't talk about these things. But if our kids are doing these things, it's a normal part of growing up. It's a normal developmental stage. And our position is that from a very early age, children must be taught in an age-appropriate way about their bodies, about sexuality, how to protect themselves, etc., and how to have, respectful relationships.
And Natasha, what about bullying in schools? This is a question from a viewer. Does bullying in schools, international schools, also come under the purview of the authority?
Yes, all schools, we can intervene if there's a complaint. All schools come under our purview. And I think, again, with bullying, again, it's those things we've been talking about: life skills, empathy, social responsibility. Because so if we can create a culture in schools where there is respect and empathy, then I think even the bullying is going to reduce.
What about international schools? Do they also come under your purview?
They come under our purview. Anyone, anywhere there is an issue with regards to a child's protection, then it comes under our purview, and we have the authority to enter any premises in which a child is.
Right. And here's another question that we had. The grade 5 scholarships, though it has not been an issue to children in schools in Colombo, we see many facing the consequences of grade 5 scholarships in rural areas. What's your stand on that?
Well, we have repeatedly said that things like the grade 5 scholarship they should think about how to do it in a more creative way.
Right.
And I think this is something the government is already moving on. They have recognized that the grade 5 scholarship places a ridiculous amount of stress on 10, 11-year-olds, and that there are more creative and useful ways in which to decide whether a child goes to this school or that.
Yeah.
Also, I think it is important that all schools get to a standard where parents feel comfortable sending their child to the closest school, which is what happens in most parts of the world.
Right.
But here, because of the disparity between among these schools, the resources are so disparate.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. We have to look at this also in terms of social equity, economic equity, and make sure that schools in these rural areas, that these are schools that parents actually want to send their children to.
And just as we're coming towards the end of this program, do you get calls probably from children, must be from children, saying, look, mummy is awful. And why is that? Well, because mummy isn't allowing me to play my game. Mummy wants me to do my homework, and it's really boring. And I do know my 2 times and 4 times and 6 times tables. Can you talk to mummy?
We don't get a lot of those calls. We get some of them,
yeah,
where we just talk the child through the issue.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
we
right. Even if it doesn't become, we don't register it as a complaint, a child abuse complaint, certainly. Okay. But as I said, of those, the 100,000 calls, 10,000 are child abuse complaints. The other 90,000
includes calls such as
these, and we don't just hang up on them. Right. We do talk through.
Oh, that's
especially if it's a child. Yeah. I think the operators take a lot of time to talk through the issue and just counsel the child and make them see. In a case like this, that this is not a question of abuse, but really the parents trying
I'd love to see your statistics on these matters, but out of such calls, do children complain more about mummy than daddy?
It's not often that they call to complain about mommy or daddy at all. Okay. Yeah, and actually, surprisingly, at 1929, the majority of calls come from adults and not children. Adults complaining about something they've seen or witnessed or know about.
And on a very serious note, what changes need to be made to the education system?
Well, what we were talking about, we need to start focusing on life skills, comprehensive sexuality education, and also create a system which is child friendly. So for example, we know that in many schools in the country that corporal punishment, physical punishment, or mental emotional abuse is used quite frequently. If we are to change that, we need to have teachers trained in alternative positive forms of discipline. And that too is something we are going to focus on this year. We've been conducting an island-wide research, an empirical study on how much corporal punishment is being used and why it is being used, what teachers expect to get from it, and what the effect is on children. And then move from that to skills-based training for teachers about alternative forms of discipline.
Wonderful. So it's 1929, the number for the National Child Protection Authority. You've got a problem, or you think there's a problem happening, or that a problem is looming. Whichever it is, whatever concern you have, as long as it's to do with the child, then get dialing 1929. Natasha Balendran, thank you very much for being on Newsline.
Thank you, Faraz.
We appreciate your presence.
Thank you very much.
And that's it from Newsline. We'll see you again, same time, same place. And on that note, take care, have a great day ahead, and God bless.